Thank you for listening to this PodcastOne Sportsnet production, available on Apple Podcasts and PodcastOne.
Thanks for the download button on the family-friendly version of Steve Austin Show. We are locked and loaded and ready to roll with the first episode of the year from the mean streets of Los Angeles, California. Before we kick it off, let me say thanks to one of the great sponsors that's making this possible, Nature Box. Nature Box is going to help you get your snacking back on track in the new year because Nature Box makes snacks that actually taste great and are better for you. They're made with high-quality ingredients that don't have any artificial colors, flavors, or sweeteners. And they got something for everyone. They got snacks like mini peanut butter oatmeal cookies, Harvest nut mix, and sourdough cheddar pretzels. And Nature Box recently improved their service. Now you can order as much as you want, as often as you want, with no minimum purchase required, and you can cancel at any time. So go to naturebox.com/Austin and check out their snack catalog. There's over 100 snacks to choose from, and they're always adding new snacks too. Just choose the ones you like, and they'll deliver them right to your door. And if you ever try a snack that you don't like, Nature Box will replace it for free. And right now, you will save even more. Nature Box is offering 50% off your first order when you go to naturebox.com/Austin. That's naturebox.com/Austin for 50% off your first order. naturebox.com/Austin.
The following program is a PodcastOne.com production. From Hollywood, California, by way of the Broken Skull Ranch, this is the Steve Austin Show.
Give me a hell yeah.
Hell yeah! Now, here's Steve Austin.
All right, everybody, welcome to Steve Austin Show. I am coming to you from the mean streets of Los Angeles, California today. I'm sitting here in my rent house right next to 316 Gimmick Street. As you people have heard, if you listen to the podcast, our house is under construction. We're remodeling. We were lucky enough to be able to rent the house right next door. So as soon as we flew in Saturday, we got off that airplane after, I'd had a couple of Broken Skull Ranch Bloody Marys, just one or two. I was able to drive as soon as I got down on the ground. Very safe, very responsible, doing the right thing. Loaded up all our stuff, including a bunch of deer meat, all of our suitcases, all of our dogs. And we came over here and moved into this rent house and immediately proceeded to start bringing stuff over. We needed a bed, bedside tables, couch, love seat, a chair, a little Vizio TV to watch, and we're all settled in this little rent house for the next couple of months while they remodel our house over at 316 Gimmick Street. Man, after being gone in Texas for 2 months, I was ready to come home. I was ready to come home just because of the fact that we're working our asses off so much over there trying to maintain that damn place and get all the work done by the time, we had to come on back to L.A. and get back to real life and paying bills. But, man, I tell you what, that's all we did was out there work, hunt, drink, repeat. And that's a pretty good life. But I got to pay the bills. I got to talk to other people other than Ted Fowler 361. I am going to be talking to Ted Fowler 361 about once a month, just catching up. Got to see what's going on the South Texas scene, stay connected to my roots. So there'll be more conversations coming up with Ted Fowler 361 in the future. A lot of you guys have been enjoying those shows. But a lot of you have been wanting me to start talking about wrestling again and other things. And so that's what I will be doing. And over the next 2 months, hopefully they finish my house. We can get our ass moved back in there and assume a normal life. God dang it, man. We had a good time hunting down there this year. And I came back to Los Angeles. And normally it never rains over here. And it's been raining cats and dogs. And up in the mountains it's been snowing. And that's a good thing because California's been in a worse drought than Texas has for the last 5, 10, 15 years. So, man, I was surprised as hell to get that weather report. And last night, about 3 in the morning, it was raining cats and dogs over here in Marina del Rey. We need the damn rain. But every time it rains in Los Angeles, because it's been so dry, there's no vegetation growing because all the fires. So when all that rain hits the dirt, it turns to mud, and you got mudslides and calamity. So you can't win for losing out here. Hopefully the rain will help fill up some of the reservoirs and replenish some of the water supplies. I never thought as an adult I would be worried about the water supply, because as a kid, that just ain't something you worry about. You turn on the faucet and water shoots out and you think that it will never end. But all of a sudden, you turn 52, you start being concerned about where in the hell your water comes from, how much of it is there, and will it ever all dry up? Yeah, it can dry up if we don't get enough rain. But anyway, amen, enough about that. God dang it, I was so disappointed this past Sunday night. We hooked up our little TV over here, and my wife got this little gimmick antenna that you attach to the wall, and she dialed it all in, and I was ready to watch CMT, to watch the Broken Skull Challenge. We're getting ready to wrap this thing up. It's season 4. And we looked all in the channels, and we couldn't get CMT on our little antenna. Now, we got DirecTV over at 316 Gimmick Street, but since we're just renting this thing, we ain't got no damn TV or cable, satellite, whatever you call it. It picked up some local channels. So then I told my wife, hey, we'll just get on the CMT app and watch it. Because we used to watch it last season. We'd be over at the little club that we belonged to, and we'd have the iPhone on the middle of the table watching Broken Skull Challenge live as it streamed on the app. It don't stream live on the app anymore. So I missed out on a hellacious episode of Broken Skull Challenge. I'm telling you what, I really wanted to see that episode. My point is, I think the girls are coming out next week, and I think it might be the last 2 episodes coming. And those are the 2 baddest episodes that you will ever see of that show. So anyway, whatever you do, keep watching Broken Skull Challenge for the next couple of weeks, because the last 2 episodes are absolutely off the charts. Damn, I tell you what, it's time for me to get my ass back in the gym. I got a gym out there in South Texas. Hell, after about 3 weeks of working out, the workload became so much, the deer hunting consumed so much time trying to get caught up. Whew, man, I ain't touched a weight in about a month. I got to get back in the gym tonight, start getting back in shape. We got to see what happens. They going to green light another season of Broken Skull Challenge, or just the fact that I need to get back in shape in general. But it was a good break from the weights. As I told you this a few weeks ago, it was good to start working out again. But we started working so much, it was back to the grind and hunting and working and drinking and doing the same thing. One of the things I have not liked since I returned to Los Angeles is the traffic, the helicopters, the sirens, the noise, and just seeing so damn many cars. I got used to being on the ranch. I never left unless I had to go into town. It was just me and my Kawasaki mule and my Ford Bronco just riding around on the roads and the senderos hunting. I let Teddy borrow my other mule. He was riding that thing around. You never see another human being. All of a sudden, you get on an airplane, 3 hours later, bam, you're surrounded by tens of thousands of cars with people everywhere. And it's the same as when I left, except even crazier. Everybody's texting while they're driving. Everybody's walking down the roads, reading their iPhones, texting. Nobody looks straight ahead. Everybody's got to multitask, and they can't get their face out of their phones. And it really bothers me because when you're driving, and then my wife is sitting there riding shotgun, what, that guy's texting, that girl's texting, that guy's texting. Hey, get your goddamn face out of your damn iPhone while you're driving. You're not only just putting me in danger, you're putting all the other folks in danger. Don't be stupid. If you want to send a text, wait till you hit a red light, at least. That's what I do. I ain't going to say I'm perfect, because I'm not. But I don't text while I drive. If I hit a stoplight, I'll send out a quick text. If a light turns green, I put my phone down, start driving again. If I hit another red light, I'll finish the text. Damn, you got to be safe out there. But it's the same old, same old. Los Angeles is Los Angeles. It's good to be here. Got a couple of meetings this week. A couple projects we're working on. We'll see how that goes down. But that's enough about this, man. Hey, people wanted me to start talking about pro wrestling again because that's the world that I know and it's the world that I come from. I know a thing or two about the business. And a couple of people that listen to the show sent me a match that recently happened within the last few weeks. I don't know the exact date of it. But it was a match between Kenny Omega and Okada for the IWGP title over in Japan. It was damn near about a 45, 50-minute match. And he said, hey, man, Steve, check this out. Give us your thoughts on this. So I said, hey, man, this match can't be that good. So I watched it for about 5 minutes, watched the entrances. I pushed the stop button. And I said, I'll try it again. I watched another 5 minutes of it, pushed the stop button. And I said, all right, man, let me watch this damn match. Everybody says it's this good match. And I read it. Dave Meltzer give it a 6-star rating. I said, all right, now I'm really going to watch this match. Because Dave's pretty tough on a match. And the guy's been around the horn a little bit, so he kind of knows what he's talking about. If Dave gives it a 6-star match, I got to check it out. I started watching the match. The guy started doing work, started filling the time, started off slow, started billing that thing. And right when I thought they was going home, they stopped and kept going. A couple of badass false finishes, some badass sequences, selling like crazy. Kind of slowing down again, building back to a peak, hit the gas pedal, more false finishes, devastating moves, great salesmanship. Oh, man, I tell you what, Kenny Omega and Okada, that was a hellacious match. And I started thinking, I was thinking, man, that might be one of the best matches I've seen in a long time. And then I thought, it might be one of the best matches I've ever seen. I've seen a lot of good matches by people that were more famous than these two guys. But these two guys and Okada, man, at 29 years of age, good-looking kid, good drop kick. Man, what a bright future for him. For Kenny Omega, been around 16 years. God dang, what a run he could have in WWE if he decided to go over there. It was an awesome match, guys. I enjoyed the hell out of it. Both of your performances were flat off the charts. I mean no disrespect when I said more famous people have had great matches. I don't watch a whole lot of the New Japan system, so I wasn't very familiar with either guy. So no disrespect intended there. I'd love to see Kenny Omega in the WWE. Looking at what AJ Styles has done, this kid's work is second to none. Okada, I don't think he'll go anywhere but stay in New Japan, but man, good-looking kid, hellacious worker, perfect salesmanship. Same with Kenny Omega. He exploded at the right times, hit the gas pedal at the right times, the right temperament. It was a great match. So I called up Dave Meltzer and I said, hey, man, I heard you give this match 6 stars. He goes, yeah, I did. And I said, okay. I said, you want to talk about it on the podcast? And Dave said, sure. I said, I'll call you right back. So the podcast you're going to hear, we'll start off talking about Okada and Kenny Omega, and then we'll segue into a little bit about pro wrestling, a little bit about the Royal Rumble. We'll get into some UFC stuff, see what Ronda Rousey is going to be up to, and just the future of MMA. And about an hour and 5-minute conversation with Dave Meltzer, a longtime friend and a longtime analyst of the pro wrestling business, of the Pro Wrestling Observer. So he is my guest today. It was good to reconnect with Dave. It's been a long time since I've talked to him. It's always fun talking to him because he's so knowledgeable about the business and interesting hearing his opinion and his thoughts of the match. Anyway, we're going to get into my conversation with Dave here in a minute. But first, everyone walking this planet is a unique individual. You don't walk like anyone else, or talk like anyone else, or even sleep like anyone else. So why is your mattress one size fits all? It ain't got to be like that anymore, thanks to Helix. Go to helixsleep.com, answer a few simple questions, and they'll use their proprietary algorithm to run a 3D biomechanical model of your body to create the most comfortable mattress you've ever slept on. Helix worked with the world's leading sleep scientists to develop this formula so that everyone can get an affordable, customized mattress and enjoy the best sleep of their lives. Helix even customizes each side of the mattress for all you couples out there. And here's the best part. You have 100 nights to try it out, and if you don't love your custom mattress, Helix will pick it up for free and give you a full refund, no questions asked. So go to helixsleep.com/podcast and get $50 off your order. That's helixsleep.com/podcast. helixsleep.com/podcast.
Hey, it's Layla from Layla Ali Lifestyle on PodcastOne. Now, as an undefeated boxing champion turned fitness and wellness expert, I'm going to be bringing you the information that you want to hear. Be a champion in every area of your life. You can download new episodes of Layla Ali Lifestyle every Thursday at PodcastOne.com or subscribe at iTunes.
The Steve Austin Show. The Steve Austin Show.
All right, here we go. Let's get right to it. I've been talking about deer hunting and work at the ranch, at the Broken Skull Ranch down here in South Texas for 2 months. It's time to shift gears and talk a little bit about pro wrestling. So I decided to call the guy who knows it all, Dave Meltzer, Pro Wrestling Observer Newsletter. Dave, how are you?
I'm doing great. How you doing, Steve?
Man, I'm doing good. I had a lot of people send me a match on my email account for the Steve Austin Show, and it's Kenny Omega versus Okada. And these guys went lights out, Jesus Christ, give or take 45, 50 minutes. That was after the entrances. I don't know the exact timing of the match. But, I kind of started watching the match. One time I started watching it. The second time I was like, man, I don't know. These things never live up to my expectations. So finally I said, you know what? I need something to talk about on the podcast because I've been talking too much about deer hunting. So let's talk about wrestling. Let me give this match a chance. Well, I did. And it blew me out of the park. At first, I was thinking, I think this is probably one of the best matches I've seen in a long time. And then I changed my mind. I think this is one of the best matches I've ever seen. And so I started looking up the match and doing a little bit of checking up on it. And I saw that you gave it a 6-star rating. So I said, hey, man, I got to call Dave Meltzer and see what's up. Obviously, you were as impressed with the match as much as I was. What stood out to you just talking about it?
It's funny you said the way you said that because that was my mentality, too, because I didn't watch it live because it was on at like 4 a.m. our time. And I woke up and I had texts from fans that were there live and from a couple of the wrestlers that were there in the building going like, this is the greatest match I've ever seen. And I'm going like, oh, yeah, sure. You know what I mean? Like when someone tells you, you go, yeah, sure.
Right.
Sure, right. And so I'm watching and about, 38 minutes in, I'm going like, this is a hell of a match. I mean, this is a really great match. And then when it was over, my thought was, you know what, this is one of the best matches I've ever seen. And by this point in time, people are already talking about it like it's the, greatest or one of the greatest matches in the history of wrestling. And so, my reaction kind of was that like, this is better than like the 5-star matches I usually give, so why don't I do this? I mean, it wasn't really anything that I thought of that much, and I'd never thought of the reaction was crazy. But it was funny because even before I did that, I was getting all kinds of people on Twitter going like, this is a 6-star match, this is a 6-star match. So, I've never really done that. I think I probably have kind of done that before on like out of this world matches, but yeah, I thought it was one of the best matches that I've ever seen.
And you got to put in the time when you watch this match because of the length that it was. So when I first started watching, I was like, okay, this is good work. Everything's pretty logical. Being very, very nitpicky, they could have laid in a couple of the forearms to the lower back a little bit more than they did, but then it kept going, and then they set up some of the table spots. Okada has a tremendous drop kick, the drop kick off the top turnbuckle, and the match kept building. And so you got to put in that time of base work as you're telling your story, and then they started ramping it up. They started building, and then they kept setting the table, putting these things out, and then executing. And then right when you didn't know how the match was going to end, finally it did. But there were several periods of putting in time, good solid work. Then they built it, and you think they're going home. They don't. They draw it out. They draw you in more. Young Bucks were there to add a little bit to the factor of being with Kenny Omega, but being not interfering in the match. The crowd was in hook, line, and sinker, trademark Japanese crowd, kind of reserved, but then they started coming, when they needed to, and the thing just kept building. And by the time they got to the finish, it was spectacular. But I didn't think it was going to live up to, everybody said, hey, check this match out, it's badass. It was. But I don't know a whole lot about who Okada is because I don't follow the Japanese wrestling shows as much as I used to. This kid at 29 years old is a hellacious talent.
Yeah, he's their top guy now. I mean, it was like he was been groomed since like 2012 to be the top guy. And then I would say last year's Tokyo Dome when he beat Tanahashi, it was kind of like the changing of the guard, like, okay, now it's your time.
Right.
And So yeah, and I mean the other thing too is that they drew real well without Tanahashi in the main event. He'd been in the main event for 6-7 straight years. So there was a lot of Tanahashi's the guy who helped build the company, so to speak. They were real big when you went down there. They were a real strong company. And then in the early 2000s, through the mid 2000s, it really got bad there. I mean, really bad. And then, from about 2009, 2010, it started coming up. From 2011, 12, it started coming up strong. But it was all Tanahashi as the guy. So it was almost like, when you have the thing of, like when Hogan left, you know what I mean? It's like,
right.
If Hogan leaves, the concern would be, it's like, can we keep it at this level? When you left, and when Dwayne Johnson left, it's like, can we keep it at this level with new guys in that thing? And it's a hard rebuilding process. Now Tanahashi's still there, but he's not the top guy anymore. And they went with the younger Okada in that spot. He was handpicked because he's got a good look and he's adapted well to it. He's a fantastic wrestler. One of the things in that match was because I've watched it twice now, and the first time I'm watching, cold, not knowing what's going on. The second time I already know the match, and I'm watching, the subtleties and just like little things that they did in the match, like Okada's selling, the selling of the pain and things like that were just like, it's like Omega's like the standout, like spectacular guy, but Okada's every bit as important to the match.
Well, I thought Okada was selling in really a white meat babyface style, just because he was so dead, and he didn't die. I mean, it was just an extreme sell because of what Kenny was doing to him, and he would just lay there because of a lot of what you see in the United States scene right now is a lot of overselling and a lot of overacting. And so I thought Okada played it right down the middle. He knocked it out of the park with his selling, as did, Kenny was a little bit more animated in his sell. I guess in this match, the one spit spot, kind of bothered me a little bit, but it worked for the match just because I just don't like people spitting, or you never like to be spit at. But I would say that, just because Kenny was the foreigner, then I guess you could assume that he was the heel in the match, although he didn't really work heel or use dirty tactics.
Yeah, I think the idea was that, they wanted Okada to win, but that there was a respect for how good Kenny was. The other thing that they had, which was why the match started slow to an extent, is number one, because they were going so long. I mean, you can't go
Correct.
balls out for that long. But the other one is they were following an incredible match. Like, they were the match that came before was almost as good as this one. So it was like. You can't just run out there and start doing stuff because the people weren't ready to pop for the after that previous match because they'd been taken so high. So so I mean I've had some people go, oh, it started slow, and it's like the position they were in. Number one with the length they were going, and number two with what they were following is like you had to somewhat do that.
You do. And I didn't see the match that preceded it because I just saw the one match. And actually, when I signed on to start watching the match, I didn't know that the match, was going to last almost an hour. So I thought, that there was a couple of matches together, but this was the highlight. So, yeah, when you're following a hot match, I mean, it's hard to do. And then if you start at 6,000 RPMs, you really have nowhere to go. But as a standalone match, because I didn't see the match that preceded this one, I still thought the pacing was fine. I love there's just kind of the hand-to-hand thing. You're trying to grapple. They're just looking for position, jockeying, feeling each other out. You don't rush into something. Yeah, they knew they were going, 45, 50 minutes. I didn't. But I just like when people don't rush into things, they're feeling each other out, and then the story unfolds.
Yeah, and the other thing too is just that they protected. Like I don't know, because I know you're not familiar with Kenny, but when he picks the guy up on his shoulder, he does this move, the one-winged angel, which is his finisher. And so one of the stories of the match was he kept getting Okada in that position, and Okada kept escaping. So they went the 47 minutes, and he never hit the move once. So you've got the story for the rematch in the sense of he never kicked. Kenny kicked out of his finisher, which is the Rainmaker, the short clothesline. But he never, his finish was not compromised, so you have something to go back with. Plus, just the whole nature of how people reacted to the match, it's like they want to see the rematch. And then what I also thought was really brilliant is that the next day they did an angle where they completely went away from it. So, like, they're going to do a rematch at some point if he stays. You know, he may leave. I mean, you know, that's a possibility, I think. But if he stays, you know, they'll for sure do a rematch on a big show. But it probably won't be for 6 months, as opposed to, you know, hey, we got to rematch it next month. I think it needs that anticipation, you know, because, you know, you've been in programs where, you know, you have a really good match, then you come back 2 more within 2 months, and it's kind of like the aura is gone, and maybe you could have stretched it out, but everyone's so impatient that you just, oh, this is hot, let's go to it next month again. And I like to think that, like, if you go away, you make people like hungry for it, right? And by the time you get to it, they'll want it more than if you do it again on, like, your big show in February, so to speak.
Yeah, but I think how did they go away from this match? Because in this match there are several spectacular pile drivers, including a jumping pile driver, the one outside pretty much off the guardrail onto the mat, devastating stuff. You know, the Rainmakers, you know, there's probably a total of 3 of them, give or take. So, I mean, you know, certainly Kenny should have been feeling the effects of selling that neck. So, you know, what if they'd have Rockied this thing, or what was that, Rocky 2, whatever, and they're both, you know, saying, hey, man, they beat the hell out of each other, don't want another rematch, ain't gonna be one. You know, play that, because it was such a physical match. Everything made sense. They sold everything. But both guys, should have been, you know, almost dead after going through something like this. So rushing it or having one in 1 month would be too soon for me. But to me, They should have played out the effects of the physicality, because it was such a badass match.
Yeah, I mean, they did in the sense that they had a show the next day, and Kenny didn't do much in the match, and Okada was taped, you know, up, you know, his back, his neck. He was taped up everywhere, and he did just enough to get by. And then what happened was, because everyone knew he was weakened, you know, they brought Minoru Suzuki back, who'd been gone from the company for 2 years, and, you know, he choked out Okada and gave him a pile driver on the same neck that, you know, Kenny had worked on, and it got tremendous heat, you know, because it was a run-in that nobody saw coming. Nobody knew they were returning to the promotion. I mean, people kind of did know they were returning, but they didn't know when, type of a thing. So now you've got this thing where now Okada's got to go against Suzuki. He's got his new program with Suzuki, and Kenny's kind of, you're sitting there with wanting the Kenny match, but it's not the, you know, it's like it's you know that he's got to get the revenge on this guy before he can go back to the Kenny thing. I think that if Kenny stays with the company, that they'll go and put the championship on him. They really should, because their goal is to start, you know, doing business in the U.S. and the U.K., and I think that Kenny makes a better champion for the U.S. and U.K. market than Okada does. You know, I mean, Okada's probably a better champion for the Japanese market, but still, and you also want to change the titles back and forth at some point anyway.
Hey, man, so tell me a little bit about Kenny Omega, because I know he's a Canadian wrestler, but you also have a 5-star match here with, I'll mispronounce the name, Tetsuya Naito.
Naito, yeah.
So tell me about that match. And
that match was great too. Kenny's he's a super talent, and he's always been a super talent. But you know, in time, you know, he's 33. He's had a lot of experience. He really knows Japan better than almost anyone, because he's been there for so long. He started with a small promotion, DDT, and then he moved on to New Japan a couple of years ago, and It's like everything's. It's just, you know how the guy you find like the light. There were like flaws in his game before. I hate to say that about a guy that was so spectacular, but I always thought that like he overacted in certain ways and was over dramatic, and it was almost like, you know, it's like it was a guy who had all the tools to do anything, but it felt like he was putting on a show rather than a fight.
Right.
And in the last year, I'd say in the last year. He was put in the position when AJ Styles was the top foreign guy there, and AJ went to WWF. So Kenny got the call. It's like, it's your time, and boy did he take advantage of it. He had some of the best matches of the year, you know, all year. Every singles match that he had was spectacular, almost too much, because he does so much physically in these matches that it's, you know, you go like, you know, how do you keep recovering from it? But he's got a mind for it. He's got incredible athletic ability, and that's, you know, he's got, like, you know, he's got explosiveness. He's strong. He's great body control, and you know, thinks about the business 24/7. So he's always plotting it out and everything like that. So it's like he's become a real complete package in the last year, and he can talk too.
But how is he physically? Because he kind of reminded me a little bit of AJ Styles as he caught that air out of the ring on the backdrop onto that table. That table spot looked pretty precarious because that didn't look like one of those working tables, damn near a shoot table.
No, it wasn't.
Kind of flies through the air like AJ, but in that sense, he doesn't remind me of AJ like, AJ does this guy does that. They're completely separate. I would say, I would agree with your point. Great body control, great athlete, but not in the mold of AJ. He's just another badass hand. That being said, what's the wear and tear on his body, or what have you heard? And then if he doesn't stay,
he's got wear and tear. That's why like Yeah. I mean, you're gonna. He's 33. He's been doing it for
16 years.
He
debuted in
I'm not sure. Yeah. So he and for the last several years on a pretty hard Japanese schedule. So that's again, like, I don't know what he's doing now, and he's kind of playing a game where he wants everyone not to know what he's doing now. But it's kind of like, when I look at it from his perspective, and I know he loves Japan, I almost think that it's like, this, you're never going to be hotter. And WWE is looking for a new top guy. I mean, I think they think that they got it in Roman Reigns, but when I look at everything, I mean, he's younger than AJ. He's taller than AJ. He's got a good body. He's got a good look. He's got good promo. I mean, if you look at all the guys that they got that they're grooming to be top guys, I mean, AJ's 39. Roman has certain issues. I mean, he's very good, but he's not over with the crowd, and he's not a great promo. And Kenny's got more of everything than anyone on that roster has. I mean, I think he's, compared to some of the other guys, he's more solid as a worker than Ambrose. I think he's a better talker than Rollins. And he hasn't been damaged like Rollins has to me by the booking because he's fresh. Right. So it's like, I look at this and go, like, he could be like the guy, like the replacement that they've been looking for Cena. I don't know that they think that, but when I look at him, I think that this guy's got all the tools now. It is a different system. Sometimes when guys come over, they have that Japanese mentality and they don't adapt and it doesn't work. But AJ also proved that it can work because he's done phenomenal since he's come in.
AJ's kicked ass. I'm so proud of that guy, and I'm so happy for him for as long as he's been around to finally get the shot. And to be, man, quite honestly, a tad on the undersized spot for, working for a Vince McMahon promotion, to rise as high as he has, and has just had some absolutely phenomenal matches, no pun intended. This kid here, Kenny Omega, when you look at the Japanese system, and you kind of got a ballpark idea, Dave, of what guys are making. Do top Japan guys make that good of money? Because I'm thinking not like United States
not
money
like
would be a lot
WWE
better.
Guys.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, it's good, but it's not. You can't. It's just not. I mean, if you look at the size of the companies, I mean, as New Japan is the number 2 company in the world, but it is a distant number 2. I mean, it really is. If you look at the revenues, it's legitimately like 1/20th of WWE, and I'm not exaggerating. It's 1/20th of WWE as far as revenue. I mean, it's still a profitable company. It's a successful company in their market. They're very, they're strong. They draw big crowds. But WWE is a worldwide machine, and it's like, as much as a lot of people like that Japanese thing as an alternative, you also got to look at the reality of a guy and a stage in your career. Again, at 33, maybe at 29, he may want to stay. He's not feeling the bumps as much. At 33, you're looking at like, how many more years am I going to do this? And I can make a lot more money over here. And also the other thing with WWE is you get worldwide fame and you can live off that WWE name, long after your full-time days are over, whereas your New Japan name, if you're only in New Japan, you're not going to have that big name in the United States and the rest of the world. You'll only be big in Japan.
And jumping through the window, if he was to leave Japan and go to WWE, man, with the skill set that guy has, the ability that he has, and the size that he has, he could do extremely well if booked properly. So then, it's a Kenny Omega personal thing of, hey, do I love what I'm doing in Japan just because I love wrestling and I like it over here? I feel safe. Or, is it his dream to come to WWE, which is, it's the big league. If you want to make the most money, that's where you've got to go. And that's tried and true. And that's just the way it is. So at 33, with a guy as much talent as that he has, if he were to make the jump, man, the future's wide open. He would have very great possibility of making a lot of money because I think that the WWE has some very talented guys. But to your point you made earlier, I think this guy's about as talented as there is out there.
Yeah, I mean, the one thing that I would worry about in the sense is that he's a really good promo, but if you watch his promo, it's that believable promo, and it's a unique delivery of a promo. I mean, I think he would still bring the unique delivery into WWE, and it gets some people kind of think it's kind of weirdish, but it's like when you watch him do like a scene, he does a scene almost like an actor in a way, but when he talks, it's like it's very gripping in the sense of and his whole thing is he's very confident in his ability to have matches and have great matches and things like that, but again, like in a scripted environment, I don't know how he will do. I mean,
that's what scares me, Dave. That's what scares me when all of a sudden you're boxed in or you're written for, and man, sometimes for some guys that spells disaster.
Yeah, because again, one of the things that gets his promos over is that when I watch his promos, I believe every word he says, and that's not necessarily the case with all wrestlers or even with most wrestlers. But I watch him and he grips me and the way he talks and everything like that. But if he's out there doing, and a lot of times when I watch WWE, one of my big pet peeves, and I know it's yours too, is I'm watching the verbiage and I go, this character would not talk like this in real life, and then I don't give a shit about the rest of the interview. You know what I mean? It's like that click-off thing where people are using words that you don't use in real life or that aren't consistent with what my feeling of his character should be or what his character used to be. You know what I mean? Like like a guy just throw out a name like Lawler, right? I watched Jerry Lawler for so many years that it's like when he starts using words that he doesn't use and uses phrases that he doesn't use when he's reading from a script, I'm just going like, I don't buy it. But then granted, I watched him for so long, but you get that with other guys when they use words that like people in real conversations don't use. It's just like it no longer connects, and that's what I'm wondering with him because his interviews do connect really well.
But what style of interview is he doing over there in the Japan system?
Just video. He does like video interviews and things like that. Just talking about his philosophies on wrestling and again how important the championship was to him. And I think that again I don't know him, so this is hard, but I know people who know him and everything. I think that there really was a disappointment he didn't go over, and it was funny because when I'm watching the match, and part of me was going like, this is the time, there'll never be a better place. It's the Dome, it's the big spotlight thing. But when he lost, I really did think, you know what? It's going to mean more when he wins it because he had to fight harder to get it. So I wasn't against the loss. A lot of people were, but I wasn't. But I got the sense that, in his mind, like this is the biggest thing, and this was when you're there and you're in the middle of the match, sometimes you have that thing of like, hey, what's planned may not be the right thing for this minute. You know what I mean? But it's already done. It's the decision's out of your hands. And I kind of sense that he may have been in the middle of that match going like, this is really the time and the place. And then when it was over, it was kind of like a disappointment because, it was out of his hands and that wasn't the decision the company wanted to go with at this point. But he may have won them over to the point where they go, okay, it's like no doubt about it. He drew a big house. He's got everything. Down the line, we're going to go with him. I mean, I've got to think that they're thinking that way. I've got to. I mean, no one's told me that, but I thought it was just too. Sometimes it's just so obvious when you look at it that you go, they got to be thinking that because it's too obvious not to think that.
Yeah, but wasn't it maybe also a case of management or ownership? If he's not signed or if his deal is expiring, we don't know what this guy's going to do. Just if we put the belt on him, doesn't guarantee that he's going to stay.
No, if he has actually not signed, I don't think that they could have put the belt on him because again, how can you again? I don't know if he signed a new deal, but I know his old deal is up January 31st. Right. So if he's like has the contract but hasn't signed and it's January 31st, then you can't even consider putting the belt on him and then have him go to WWF in February. I mean, that's just bad. That's bad business. We've seen that done plenty of times and it's never good. So yeah, if that's part of it. But if he had signed, and I know that he's saying he hasn't, but I'm not sure exactly. Everyone's talking about him and everything like that, and he's playing it up for all it's worth. But it is interesting, John Cena endorsing him and everything. So and from a WWE standpoint, he should. So I think the guy's in a great position right now.
Dave, as you were watching this match, did you have any idea who would win? Because for some reason during the match, maybe just because it was a Japanese promotion, I figured Okada was going over. He did, and I just felt that the entire match. Not by the way anybody was working, but I just felt that Okada was going over. So going back to the championship thing, as badass, as high quality of a match as this was, it would have been perfect for Omega to go over, but this match was so good, and I thought Okada would go over, but if Omega were to stay for them to put the belt on him, I don't know that you can duplicate this kind of performance or even come close to it.
Yeah, but the one thing is that they've got a couple of shows coming up, and I mean this is they've got a show in June that's actually their next really big show. I mean they've got a couple of somewhat big shows, but June's one of the ones they're going to really peak for, and they're coming to Los Angeles or actually Long Beach. They're going to do their first two shows in the United States on July 1st and July 2nd, and this show's June 11th. So I almost think that that's the time. You know what I mean? That's the time. And the Osaka show, I mean, yeah, to duplicate that match, I don't know that you could ever duplicate it, but I do think that those two couldn't have a bad match, and they can come close enough, and they can take things from the first match. Because the other thing about this is the first time those two ever fought in a singles match. I mean, it's they've been in some tags with, for the last, whatever it's been, several, month or so, two months. They were in a lot of tags where they would do 2 minutes against each other just to whet the people's appetite but not give them too much. And, but this is the first singles match that they've ever had. So there's still room for more. But, yeah, I know what you're saying in the sense that it's hard to believe they could have a match that good again, just because there have probably been so few in wrestling history that good. It was a time and a place, and it really was magic.
All right, before we continue on, I need to take care of another great sponsor of the Steve Austin Show. And he's not just a great sponsor, but he also happens to be a close personal friend of mine. I'm talking about the one and only Diamond Dallas Page and his DDPY program. And Dallas knows all you people are trying to be healthier and live better this year, and that's why he's offering the biggest sale ever on DDP Yoga right now. He's giving y'all 25% off the DDP Yoga Now app, the DDPY DVDs, and all DDPY swag. You can get 25% off T-shirts, mats, heart monitors, hats, and more. Just go to ddpyoga.com/Austin, and that's not all. If you buy the DDPY Max Pack today, you will get 50% off your second copy. So that's 50% off the 25% off you're already getting. That's huge savings. I'm telling you, that's huge savings. And, of course, if you buy the DDPY DVDs for 25% off, you still get 3 free months of the DDP Yoga Now app. Dallas's program has already helped thousands of people, including Mick Foley, who's dropped over 100 pounds doing DDPY. He looks great, and he says he's in the best shape of his life right now. So take control of your own health and fitness in the new year. Get on the DDPY program today and take advantage of this huge sale. 25% off all DDPY-related merch at ddpyoga.com/Austin. That's ddpyoga.com/Austin. Okay, this is a 30-second commercial, and I'm going to throw a lot of numbers at you, but please stay with me. In just 15 minutes, you could save 15% or more on car insurance. This company has been offering great rates and great service for over 75 years, and anytime you need help, you can speak to one of their trained specialists 24/7. The company is Geico. Go to geico.com today. Sorry for all the numbers, and in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, I'm out of time. Hey, you mentioned earlier in the conversation that their business really kind of tanked in 2009. Why was that? Was that because people kept splitting from New Japan and forming, the different organizations? Or what was the decline in their business?
Okay, so they were real strong through the 90s, and then what happened, I think it was two things. Number one was the great popularity of MMA, because, in Japan, it was promoted more as a shoot. And then the other thing is that they started having their guys do MMA and bringing MMA guys in to do work pro wrestling, and it was just a mix that, like, if you brought in one MMA guy as your MMA guy, like when WWF brought in Ken Shamrock, he was the only one. Well, they did bring in Severin, but they didn't do much with him. But I mean, the point is, you can do one guy as an MMA guy, and it's his gimmick. But when you have like 6 or 7, then they're just bad workers. You know what I mean? Yeah, they're legit, but they're bad workers, and the match quality up and down the show starts sucking because they're just inexperienced guys trying to learn. And that was the mistake that they made. And then by putting their own guys in those shoots, and most of them, like they didn't do well because they're not trained shooters. They're workers who may have amateur wrestled when they were younger, but they've been out of competition for 10 years. It wasn't like they were walking right from college wrestling at their peak and then going into UFC and working your way up the ladder. These were guys who were 10 years removed from that, then going back in without, training camps because they're working their shows full time. It's just a bad mix to go in there and do shoot fights against full-time shoot fighters. So they really made, it was Inoki. Inoki had a different vision of it. And then when Inoki got out, it was the greatest thing that ever happened to them because, that Inoki vision was gone. And then they had guys who grew up as wrestling fans wanting to do great pro wrestling and keep, for the most part, the MMA guys are out. There's 1 or 2 of them that are still there, but they've adapted and become good workers anyway. And they're, it works because they're different from everyone. So they've really made, the other thing with the turnaround is that they have a great variety of types of wrestling on a show. One of my complaints of WWE is that everyone kind of feels the same and every match is kind of the same. And the thing with them is they'll have like 5 or 6 different types of matches, and like this guy's going to work this style and this guy's going to work this style, but they're all good. And I think that's why watching again, they'll do like a 4-hour show, and the Tokyo Dome show was 5.5 hours. And when I watch like a 4-hour WWE show or even a 3-hour WWE show, it's almost like I'm begging for mercy. And it's not a knock on WWE. Other than like when they do a 4-hour show, I always feel, God, it's long. And when New Japan does a 4-hour show, I don't feel it's long because every match is so different that, like when you get to the main event, it's not the same thing that you've seen. It's something completely different from what you've seen in your other matches. So it's still a new thing.
Hey, before we, I want to ask you a Royal Rumble question, but last question about New Japan. How many shows a year are those guys putting on as compared to WWE?
They're not doing as many, but they're doing, like, if WWE is probably doing in the 300s, but the guys themselves may work. I actually got a chart here where the top guys are doing as many as 220 shows a year. I think 180 to 220 maybe is what your guys that go all year without an injury are going to do. There, I think the number might be like 125. 100 to 125. So maybe, like half the schedule as far as number of dates throughout the year. But they do work a really physically hard style, so I think it almost, I don't know if it evens out or even it's harder because the New Japan style is harder on the body. When I see the guys that are 40 there, sometimes I feel that they're a little bit more beat up than the Americans that are 40. But everyone's different, so it's hard to say.
Boy, I tell you what, though, I was going to ask you something about the Royal Rumble, but when you go back to a couple of the bumps that were taken in this, those pile drivers, the table bump, man, I tell you what, Okada's got a hell of a drop kick. And some of those things where he drop kicked, Omega, way across the ring or up on the turnbuckle, very stiff style. But anyway, hell, let me not beleaguer the point. Let's talk a little bit about the Royal Rumble. That's coming up right around the corner. Man, I'm out of the loop with what's going on with WWE. Just because I've been in South Texas, I've been hunting, I haven't been watching hardly anything. Got everything DVR'd, but I'm not up to speed. The Royal Rumble's going back to San Antonio, the Alamo Dome. I guess I won that Royal Rumble. Maybe it was back in '97. Sold out. I think with Shawn Michaels' hometown, give or take 70,000 people. It was a great night at the office, and the Royal Rumble can really set the stage for big things to come. Who's your favorite to win the Royal Rumble this year? Is Bill Goldberg in it? Because I'm not following into the storyline.
I don't see Bill Goldberg winning it, but the two guys that they're giving the big push to right now are Braun Strowman and Baron Corbin, and Corbin's coming along. Strowman they're protecting, and he's a lot better than he was 6 months ago. But then they got him working with Sami Zayn, who's a great worker, and he's coming along, but he definitely. if his match goes more than 6 minutes, usually it's tough. So I wonder about the investment in him, because again, your main event match, you're not going to go do a 6-minute match. Corbin's doing better. I don't know if he's quite ready for that. But I mean, like, the whole thing is the guy, the guy who wins is going to be in a championship match at Mania. So it just depends on what they're, who they're going to go with in the championship picture. But those are the two guys that are up and coming. I don't think Roman Reigns is in it because Roman Reigns is challenging for the title. So I don't think that it would be him. I know there was talk of Undertaker coming in late and winning. And, maybe that'll happen. I don't know, for one big last run for him in a championship match. But then I heard that they're not looking at a championship match for Undertaker anymore. So, but, we'll see. I mean, Undertaker's on the show tonight, so, you probably get a better idea of the direction of him. And then they got, the Seth Rollins and the Jerichos and all those kind of guys that are out there, but none, I don't know. I mean, none of them feel like a Royal Rumble winner to me. It's an interesting year because a lot of years you kind of go in there kind of knowing who's going to win. And This year there's 4 or 5 guys I think that they got a shot.
Well, what are they doing with Bill Goldberg? Isn't he? Is he in a rematch with Brock Lesnar?
Yeah, Goldberg and Lesnar are going to work at WrestleMania, and Goldberg's going to work a pay-per-view match with somebody else. And they teased Strowman and Roman Reigns and Bill at the end of the show last week. They were all in the ring together, and so you kind of like, they tease things for reasons. So he's going to work with, I'm pretty sure, one of those two guys on the February pay-per-view. And of the two, I'm guessing it's going to be Reigns because I just don't think him and Strowman's a good idea at all. So, whereas him and Reigns,
not at this point.
No,
I think Braun Strowman's going to be good. He's really, really green right now. He's a former strongman, as you know all about him. But I see a lot of potential in this kid. I had him on the podcast 6-8 months ago, just sitting there, and I didn't know where he's going to be coming from, where his head was at. But he's a very well-spoken guy, kind of a country accent, I guess from Carolina or whatever. But man, I think he's a guy with a type of charisma. But right now he's at that green stage where, everything you kind of either overact or you look a little mechanical out there, as we all did. I went through the same thing. So I think that's where Braun's at right now. And you know how it is, Dave. Man, right now you get thrown into the system and you might not really be ready to be in the system because, Jesus, I know better than anybody. When I was, 6 months to a year in the business, I was fortunate enough to be in a high-profile angle and win Rookie of the Year for 1990. But, man, I was green as grass. So sometimes when you look at these kids, I see, where they're at, why they're at, why they're there, but and the fact that they are green, but it's just, man, WWE is like, hey man, we need you now and we need you to get good real fast, but it just doesn't happen that way. But I see a lot of potential in Braun Strowman. He's a big man. He's got to continue to work like a big man, and when you're working with the guys, like Sami Zayn, who's a tremendous hand in the ring, you can't do all that tit for tat stuff. He has to remain a big man. He can't compromise that. He can sell, but he's one of the biggest bastards in the company, and he can never forget that.
They're doing the right thing with him. The problem with him was, it's like most of the guys that come up, they're doing their couple of years in developmental, but with Strowman, for whatever reason, and I don't know what it was. I mean, he probably only had 10 matches in developmental, or if that, because they rushed him up because they liked his size. Because like guys like him don't grow on trees. Guys like Brock Lesnar don't grow on trees. So you almost like look at a guy like when the same thing happened with Bobby Lashley. I always thought that when I remember Cornette even was telling me this when the first time I saw Bobby Lashley, he was so jacked up and everything, and I just go, oh my God, if this guy learns to be a wrestler, just with that look, I don't know if he can promo, but he's so physically impressive. And he's such a great athlete. And then the thing was, it's like, God, if you write too much about him, Vince is going to bring him up way early, and then he's going to not be ready, and then it's going to be like everyone's going to see him and go, oh, he's so bad. And that's kind of it was almost like we almost need to hide him. And that's kind of what happened with Bobby. Is Bobby was brought up way, way too early, and they put him with Fit every night, but still he was still brought up too early. And I think with Braun, it was the same thing. They brought him up way too early because he was so physically impressive, but you're very limited what you can do with him because he's literally learning on the job right now.
Well, I know, and going back to Lashley, you have such high expectations for a guy with that kind of look and the fact that he has an amateur wrestling background, so then you have the high expectations. You push him out there on the ledge, and then he gets exposed. Yeah. And so then it's hard to regain or just recover from being exposed. And so sometimes you never can overcome that. Hey, I never got a chance to talk to you about the match that Brock Lesnar had with Bill Goldberg. You know, and I know that's several months removed, but I never got a chance to weigh in on it because I hadn't been breaking down any pay-per-views in a long time. What were your thoughts on that being such a short, one-sided match?
I loved it because it was so completely unexpected. You know, it's like it violates the rules, but everybody was talking about it when it was over. And I mean, the one thing that made it work was you had the 50-minute match leading up to it. I think that, you know, so the show didn't end that early, but nobody, you know, when they got in the ring, nobody was expecting it to be like that. And I think most people just figured, you know, Bill's in for one night and Brock's going to beat him. I know that's what I was thinking because I didn't know that Bill had signed the three-match extension. And I think that's good that nobody knew that. And, you know, if Bill's going to stay, he should have won the first one. So I know some people thought they had so much equity in Lesnar. Some people thought they shouldn't have beaten him, especially with a guy who's, you know, not a full-time young guy. You know, like but I thought the reality is they're going to do rematches, that Brock will come out just fine when it's all said and done. And I just think that the idea that, you know, it got Bill over great. And Bill, you know, Bill's been a real success in the limited roles that he's had. He's moved ratings almost every show that he's been on, and it's when he comes out, it's like he's somebody special. If they just gone and beaten him the first night in, you know, he would just be another guy.
Oh man, it was kind of like you know, that would have been almost reminiscent of what happened to Sting.
Yeah, I didn't agree with the Sting thing at all. You know,
I didn't either.
I thought
why
Sting,
bring him in if you're going to beat him?
Yeah, I thought Sting should have beat Triple H and got a couple of wins. And, you know, the day will come when he has to lose to Triple H. That's fine. But first time in, I thought that, you know, you need to establish that the old Sting is back. You know, because the first thing to me they established is that Sting wasn't as good as our guys. And I just thought that you own Sting now. That war's over. You know what I mean?
Hey, all you comedy fans out there, and I'm guessing that's pretty much everyone listening to this here award-winning podcast. I ain't never won no damn award. I got something for you. CISO. SEESO, CISO. CISO is the new ad-free streaming service bringing you all the comedy you can handle for $3.99. You can get a near-endless supply of top-shelf stuff, exclusive originals, face-melting stand-up, next-day late-night shows, and a catalog of classics. And with CISO, you can get your laugh on anytime, anywhere. They got every episode of Saturday Night Live, including brand-new episodes the day after they air. CISO has The Tonight Show starring Jimmy Fallon, the entire Monty Python catalog, and classic TV shows like 30 Rock and Parks and Recreation. And like I said, they got originals too, like Funny as Hell. Funny as Hell is a stand-up variety show and features Jim Jeffries, Garfunkel and Oates, T.J. Miller, and Hannibal Buress, and a bunch of my favorite four-letter words that I can't say on this family-friendly show. So you'll have to check it out for yourself on CISO. And right now, you can try CISO free for 2 months when you use promo code PodcastOne at checkout. Just go to SEESO.com and sign up for 2 months free with promo code PodcastOne at checkout. That's CISO.com, promo code PodcastOne. Who does WWE have coming up that you're impressed with?
As far as the developmental system goes?
I mean, anybody on the roster.
Oh, God, I'm impressed with a lot of the guys, but it's hard to, you know, you just don't know. I mean, like, I think that Neville as a cruiserweight has really, in the last couple of weeks, turned it on in the sense of the personality and everything, where as a cruiserweight champion, him and Austin Aries both, for that division, I think can be really strong. Austin Aries got something about him. I don't know exactly what it is. I mean, he's a good worker and all, but
he's a hell of a worker.
Yeah, I think it's the confidence in his talking really impresses me, and the quickness in his talking. Like he no matter what situation he's in, he's just one of those guys you can see he's a quick thinker, and those guys usually do real well in wrestling.
Yep.
So those guys, as far as the smaller guys, impress me. As far as everyone is good. You know, because you almost have to be good to get there, but the lack is the lack of the Hulk Hogan, the Steve Austin, the Bruno Sammartino. You know, they don't have that. They got it. It's like I feel like it's like the generation of really good but no larger than life. and that's, so that's to me, that's why they're not doing sellout houses, because sellout houses, so it's like with the UFC. UFC's got 600 great fighters, okay, in the UFC, but there's really only 3 that you're not, that when they fight, you're going to do a giant pay-per-view number. And WWE has nobody like that right now. They haven't, historically there have been guys that have done that, but they don't have anyone now, and that's what I always look for is like, God, who can be that guy? And that's a hard one.
What I'm looking for is the guys to be, more character based. Still, I mean, there's some great workers in the company, some guys who blow me out of the water. But their character development isn't strong enough that people identify with them strong enough to say, hey, man, whatever arena that guy's at, I'm going to. Whatever T-shirt he's got, I'm going to go buy. If he's going to wrestle, I got to see it on Monday Night Raw. If it's a badass pay-per-view match, I'm buying the pay-per-view. To me, that's one of the things that's missing right now in WWE.
Well, some of it might be just the nature of the TV, where everybody beats everybody, and you see too many main event matches on television. You can't have that much
parity. You just can't.
Yeah, because the parity. Because when I look at the guys who come across right now as larger than life, it's Lesnar, who's almost never on TV. It's Bill Goldberg, who's almost never on TV. It's Undertaker when he comes back. And it's Cena, who means more because he's been gone for 4 months now than he did when he was there the whole time. So it's almost like you got to go away and you can't be on that weekly TV. And I think that may be something to where I mean, like, again, when you're building yourself up to a certain level, you need the experience and you need to be there all the time. But I almost think that maybe when you get to a certain level, it's best to have guys come in and out. You know what I mean? Like,
again, is it also a thing where it is the it factor, one of those things that you cannot teach? I mean, because all the guys that you mentioned, whether they're there, every week or not there every week, and to your point, you got to be there all the time for a while. But is it that, or is it the it factor that's lacking?
I think that there's a lot of different things to it. I mean, it's the it factor is like, to me, the it factor, a lot of it is just timing and luck, because you can't. You can't look at a guy. I mean, maybe you can and just go, he's going to be it, because most of the times when you go like he's going to be it, you're going to be wrong 9 times out of 10, and the guy who becomes it,
good
sometimes
point.
It's like, oh my God, it's him. He's the guy. I almost think that, like, sometimes when that happens, sometimes there'll be a point where you just go, oh my God, this guy, whether it's a phrase he said or whether it was a match he had, where you just see the crowd swell behind him. And too many times I've seen where you go like, oh my God, he's starting to catch on, and then he's in that 50-50 system, and then he's kind of neutered to where he never goes up. I think that there's that idea of when the guy is there, and you're the perfect example of this one. I mean, it wasn't like when you walked in that door the first time, it wasn't like it's like this guy's going to be Bruno Sammartino. That wasn't it at all. You were a guy, and then all of a sudden something happened, and the crowd got behind you. And to their credit, they didn't start beating you at that point and just go, well, he's just another guy. They let you go, and then things happened and timing and whatever, and then, the Tyson thing was great, but you were already on the way there. But to me, that took you to a different level. So just talking to somebody about that the other day, because they were just going like, oh, like it was with Ronda Rousey, doing stuff and everything, and it was just like, Mike Tyson had lost a bunch of fights when he came in, but my God, that was one of the most valuable hires they ever made, was that Mike Tyson for WrestleMania, because it closed the gap in the war, and Steve played off it, and Steve went from being a top guy to being a guy that everybody knew that wasn't even a fan, because he was going toe-to-toe with Mike Tyson.
Oh, yeah, and that was a huge rub for me, and it was just lucky that Mike was such a wrestling fan and super over. And, Vince dropped the whole storyline on me, and I'm like, we'll see what happens. But, obviously, me being a huge Mike Tyson fan, especially back then when he was doing his boxing and knocking everybody out, he had a couple of losses, but he was still Mike Tyson, Iron Mike Tyson. So I was in the right place at the right time. You brought up Ronda Rousey. She just suffered a defeat, TKO, at the hands of Amanda Nunes. So in 48 seconds. Does she end up in the WWE? Does she end up trying to make a comeback? That last loss was pretty damn devastating.
Yeah, I mean, it was just it was what it was. I mean, I don't think that she's I mean, as far as a personality and as far as a superstar and a celebrity, she's not done. As a fighter, she might be done. I mean, I don't know mentally, because it's like she went in there and the whole year she was gone. I mean, I remember talking to different people, in the UFC and everything, and it was like when she showed up, I mean, you could see it. It's like she's training harder than she's ever trained. And when I saw her at weigh-ins, and then just when I'd heard about her weight and everything and the kind of training she'd been doing, I knew she was going to show up in shape. And she showed up physically. She was in shape. But the big thing is what happens when she gets hit. What happens? Is she shell-shocked from the last fight? And I don't know if she was, because everyone, sometimes things happen in a fight and they just happen. But the feeling when you watch the fight is that she was not the same fighter that she was before, and it just may have, I mean, that happens in fights. Guys are undefeated and killing everyone, and then they lose once, and then they never come back to anywhere near the same level, and that. So as a fighter, I don't know. And I don't know. And if she's not the same fighter that she once was, she's made enough money. Fighting's not a good place to be, to me, if you're on the way down. It's better to get out than you know what I mean, than go on that downslide and be just a guy or a girl. So, but I don't know what she's doing. No one seems to know right now if she's going to fight again or she's not going to fight again. WWE, I think that there's value in WWE working with some of the women, getting the rub the same way you got the rub off Tyson, where whether it's Rick's daughter or Bailey or Sasha Banks or whoever, do something with Ronda. The one key thing is that it will get the ESPNs and the Sports Illustrateds and all those people focusing on that, and hopefully you can get a little bit of a rub from being next to them that can elevate them to bigger stardom. And I think that's the key of Ronda Rousey's value to WWE. It's not so much, will Ronda draw like this big buy rate just all on her own, and I don't know if she will or she won't, but use her to elevate the women's division.
But do you think the 2 back-to-back losses has hurt her drawing power were she to do something with WWE?
Perhaps to a degree, but not. Okay, so the thing is, she's still a celebrity, and she's still going to get the coverage.
Yeah, I'm a huge fan.
And that's the key is the coverage. It's like, do you want your wrestlers to be seen in places mainstream that they normally wouldn't be seen in? And if they are next to Ronda Rousey or doing something with Ronda Rousey, they can get that. Whether she's lost or not, she will still get covered because she's a big celebrity. Of course, it would be better had she won the fight, no doubt about it. For UFC, if she had won that fight and then fought Holly Holm in a rematch, that would have been the biggest fight in UFC history as far as buys go. I wouldn't have said that before, but this last show did great. It blew out my projections for the show by a great amount. And she did the same business almost that Conor does with no promotion, because she didn't promote the fight at all. And on a bad night, with the holiday weekend on a Friday and everything like that. And she did tremendous business. So her name value and her curiosity is huge. But, can she come back and draw that again for her next fight? I don't think so. You would think that second loss kind of like really hurt, because it's like, how do you put her in a championship fight? But Holly Holm just lost twice, and she's in a championship fight. So UFC, one of the things they do is they're gonna book the fight that they think is going to draw the most money, and a lot of people don't like that, but that's just how it is, because they're a business. And I understand their matchmaking, and you would understand their matchmaking, because you come from a business where that's the rules. The rules is who's on top and gets the big thing is the ones who's going to draw you the most money.
Okay, you just said it. Who's going to draw you the most money? Ronda Rousey sold tickets, and she's a badass. She's going to be in the Hall of Fame, and she's done so much for women's MMA. It's been unbelievable. Here's the thing. Can Amanda Nunes sell pay-per-views?
I don't think so. Not to a great
when you're
degree.
Dana White, when you're Dana White, you watch his finish go down in 48 seconds. He doesn't have any hair, but if he did, he'd be pulling it out.
Yeah, well, WME, they just bought this thing for $4 billion, and Ronda was one of the keys to that thing, and then all of a sudden, again, she may not have fought that much more. She was talking about retirement, and that could be it too. Mentally, when you hear a fighter talk about, I'm going to retire in a year, so often they go into the fight and lose because they're already halfway out the door. They don't have that hunger because you're thinking about it, and that maybe that's it. Maybe she, as much as she trained hard and did her running and did whatever her conditioning was, because goddamn, she was in great shape. In her mind, it's like, this is my last fight, and somehow people like that, sometimes they rise to the occasion. I've seen, Uriah Faber rose to the occasion in his last fight, but a lot of times when people have one foot out the door, they're not sharp when they fight.
Were you surprised that Miesha Tate decided to retire?
Yeah, because I don't think anyone knew that. She had a bad fight. She just didn't look herself, so I don't know what it was. It was someone who, from a wins-loss record, if you look at everything, she should have beaten. But when the fight started, it was like, the one thing with Miesha Tate was that she was never a great stand-up fighter. But she was very determined to get the fights to the ground, and she had great conditioning to where women would face her, would go out in the first round and slaughter her in the first round, and then by the second and third round, she took their best shot, and then they got tired, then she would take them down and finish. That's what she did with Holly Holm. That's what she did in several of her fights, where she withstood the thing. With Amanda, she just didn't withstand it at all. I thought that her fight with Amanda going in, it's like I had that one, I thought, pegged, and I was all wrong, is that Amanda's going to kill her in the first round, but, Miesha, you will survive anything. And in the second round, and Amanda Nunes historically gets tired because she goes out so fast.
Right.
And with Ronda, it was almost the same way. It's like, well, she'll go out fast, but again, with the last two fights, and I think Amanda Nunes improved greatly as a fighter, she's finished in the first round rather than, beating them down in the first round and then got tired. But with Raquel Pennington, she just had no answer. I remember watching that fight going like, she can't get her down, and she can't stand with her. And Raquel's a good fighter, but she's not a championship fighter. And it was just like, maybe the standard of the caliber of the fighters, of the women fighters, I think has improved greatly, which is another part of the Ronda thing, is I think that because Ronda came in and so many people saw that I can make a living at this if you're a really good female athlete and you like to fight and you've done some kickboxing or whatever. Before there was no outlet for you to make any money. Now there's an outlet. There's several of these women are making really good money, and if you're a champion, you can make, $1 million or more. And now I think you're going to start getting like much better athletes in, and I think that's and also much better coaches for these athletes, because the coaches know that, hey, if I'm coaching a women's champion, I can make some money with her, as opposed to, well, I can get her a fight for $300. You know what I mean? So it's a different. So I think that the caliber of the women fighters is increasing greatly, and the Miesha Tates and Ronda and all them, they're the earlier generation. I think that the Joanna Jędrzejczyk type fighters that were badass kickboxers that learned takedown defense, but had been kickboxing since they were kids. We're going to start seeing more women fighters like that are skill wise, just at a different level.
Did you see Holly Holm was in a championship fight?
Yeah, she's fighting Germaine de Randamie in February 11th. They're creating a 145-pound championship just because essentially they've got a pay-per-view with no, in Brooklyn. They need, and every match they tried to put together fell through due to injuries. And there's a lot of stuff that's going on there. There's been, there's a lot of changes. And one of the things there, so many of the fighters of the old generation, when I'm talking about the Michael Bisping type of guys, just as to throw out a name, but all, Rashad Evans, all those guys from that generation that came in when it was, nothing or it was low, and they were there for the rise. They had great loyalty to Dana and Lorenzo Fertitta, because they knew that, they helped them out. They were nobodies coming in. The new fighters with a new owner, there's not that loyalty. So like when Dana would call somebody up and go, I got a pay-per-view February 11th, and you go like, oh, my knee's hurting, can we make it March? It's like, well, we need you, we're loyal to you, go, okay, I'll do it. Right. Now the fighters are going like, you know what? I'm in no hurry. You know what I mean? They're not, you don't have that loyalty. So a lot of guys are turning down dates, and they have, the pay-per-view dates are set months, year in advance. So what happened with that fight on February 11th is that every fight they tried to put together, they couldn't put together. So they created a new championship, and they put Holly in, because Holly's still, as far as a star goes, except for with Miesha out, Holly's still now the second biggest star, just because of the win of Ronda. And she was on TV in her last fight and drew great numbers on television. So they know she's a draw. So it's like, we're going to create a championship for her in a 10-pound heavier weight class and hope that she wins it. I mean, the goal was for Ronda to beat Amanda Nunes, Holly Holm to beat Jermaine on February 11th and win the 145-pound title, Ronda to win the 135-pound title, and then have the biggest fight, champion versus champion, probably at 135. But, when you're, on paper it's wonderful, but Ronda lost, and so that's out the window now. I think it's out the window. I don't want to say 100% because they'll make matches to draw money, and so, it's possible they'll still go, hey, Ronda, if you want to fight Holly Holm, they probably would still do the fight.
What is ever going to happen with Chris Cyborg? Is she going to fight again? I mean, what are they doing with her?
She's suspended again. She's her own worst enemy. She took a diuretic and got caught with a diuretic, and she had a medical explanation. But, you're supposed to tell the USADA, which does the testing. You have to tell them everything that you're taking. And if she had told them, it's one thing. But then you test positive and you go, oh, I was taking this. It's like that doesn't fly. You know what I mean?
Right.
And she's, she has a reason for taking it, whatever it is. I mean, it can be used as a masking agent. It can be used, because she's had kidney issues, which she did have. There's an issue with her. She has been her own worst enemy. She's a super talented fighter, but she just gets bigger and bigger every single year. And the money fights are with the smaller women, and she just got too big to fight. Her and Ronda would have been tremendous business. And, a lot of people go, oh, they protected Ronda from her. They did no such thing. I know time after time they tried to make that fight, and Chris is like, we got to do it at 145 or 140, and Ronda's like, I'm the champion at 135. Get to this weight. And it's like, she could get to the weight. You can make the weight. If you're walking around at a certain weight, you can become a runner and not a weightlifter. Steve, if they forced you, let's just say, if you're still active, okay, and I go, Steve, get to 225 and you get $3 million. You got to get to 225. You'll find a way to get to 225.
Yes, I will.
She didn't find that way. I mean, you won't like it. It'll probably be a drag, but if you have to do it, you'll do it. She wouldn't do it. And I mean, that's the thing with her. And it's like people go, well, she's so big, it'd be hard. It's like you can drop muscle if that's what it takes to drop muscle. I mean, she has that thing where I think that she's got that thing of she's afraid of losing her muscle and afraid of not being so much bigger than everyone, that she bulked herself out of money because of she's got nobody her size to fight. That's marketable. So she's fighting. What she does is they'll put her against women that are much smaller than her, and the deal is that, but they're not going to sacrifice money women at the weight for. So what's happened was she's like a she put her on TV, she'll draw a rating. There's people who know she is, but if she would have gotten to a reasonable weight, and then they created this 145 class, it was really for her. It was to give her a championship, and then she was. They go they wanted her to fight in January in L.A., and she goes, I can't make 145 by January. Then they go, well, okay, we'll move it to February. And she goes, I can't make 145 by February. Well, then Joe Silva, who's the booker there, just goes, you know what? If you can't make 145 by February, then maybe you can't make 145. And so then she turned down March, and now, I don't know now she's suspended anyway. So
is Joe Silva still the booker?
He is not. December 30th was his last day. He retired.
Who are they going to replace him with?
Sean Shelby is the new guy who's in the position, and he was Joe's assistant, so he's a good guy, but Joe's another loss. Joe Silva and Lorenzo Fertitta. Joe Silva and Lorenzo Fertitta are going to be big losses to the company this year. People will see it. When you see the ability to get people to take fights that they may not want to take, which is one of the things that UFC's been able to put together, the fights that the fans want to see. Now you've got a lot of fighters, and then there's also the blowback where a lot of the fighters think they should be getting more money, and they should. That blowback, it's going to making a lot of the matches tough. I mean,
you just said something that really interested me, because it didn't seem to me that Mark Hunt was very eager to fight Brock Lesnar when that matchup happened. Was that a case of what you just talked about?
As far as just money, or
no, I think that Mark, I didn't get a sense that Mark Hunt was interested in fighting Brock Lesnar.
In a rematch or in July?
No, on that initial match.
I think
5 months ago he said, "Hey man, the boss man says to fight, we fight."
Right. Yeah, but now Mark Hunt's really bitter. because of that. I mean, but he is fighting Overeem on I think it's March the 4th, which is amazing because it's Overeem, because Mark Hunt has just been so vociferous that he fought what it is, 3 guys who failed tests,
right?
And he's threatened to sue and things like that, and was like, and then they put him with Overeem, who has failed tests in his past. I mean, Overeem is physically very different than he was when he fought. The Overeem that fought Brock and the Overeem that's fought in the last year look, they're different people.
Finally, has UFC reached its peak with the sale to WME?
Yeah.
Will it be the same organization? I know Dana's still the face, but can they maintain what they set up to get the $4 billion sale? Can they maintain that? And as wrestling probably peaked at the top of the Attitude Era and has, nosed down a little bit, has UFC peaked, and can they ever get this high again?
You never know when Muhammad Ali comes along, right? And the next Muhammad Ali may end up being is actually more likely to be in MMA than in boxing. So, I don't want to say ever, because there's, who comes, it's the right superstar at the right time will build them back up. But I do believe that, and I've told people this, I do believe that this last year and a half is the Rock and Steve Austin era of MMA. In the sense you got 2 incredibly right people at the right time that just drew all kinds of money, and that it's not going to be so easy to find 2 other people or 1 other person like that going forward. But someday someone may come along and all that, because Ronda was right place at the right time, first woman star. Conor, just the gift of gab like nobody's business. I mean, where do you find a guy like Conor? I've never seen anything like him. Maybe going back to Ali's the last one, a guy who can talk like that in a real fight sport. So. Yeah,
but they have they have as big of a task at hand as building guys and gals that will draw money as the WWE does in a work style environment. Yes, UFC's a shoot, but you've got to have some type of it factor to sell those tickets, or just be such a bad stick of wood that people just got to see you fight.
Right. And even John Jones, who's a fantastic fighter, John Jones doesn't draw like they draw. And Cain Velasquez, Cain Velasquez's problem is he's just his body's turning on him. But like there's TJ Dillon or Dominic Cruz, I should say. Dominic Cruz is a great talker and he's a great fighter, but he's not a great drawing card. It's just like, is there a reason why? It's like, so, guys that could talk great and were awesome workers, but somehow they never drew giant money. They may have done all right. And there's a lot of fighters like that, where you go like, I look at Dominic and he talks so well and everything like that, but it's like, but is he going to do million buy pay-per-views? No, he's not. Those kind of guys, I mean, yes, I do believe that when we look back, people are going to go, like they do with the Lesnar era. The Lesnar era was like this big peak, and then the Ronda and Conor era was a big peak. And I think that there may be another peak coming when somebody's around, but I can't tell you. I don't see another Ronda and I don't see another Conor, so I don't know that it's going to happen in the next 3 years.
Well, hey, man, it was good talking to you. Anything else you want to talk about, or anything you want to plug? Get out there.
Yeah, just, I do the Observer website, www.wrestlingobserver.com. The weekly newsletter, it's been around for forever and a day. And, me and Brian Alvarez do our radio shows several times a week. We talk MMA and, extensive pro wrestling all over the world. And, it's a pleasure to do your show. It's been too long, It
has been too long. I left you a couple of messages. I said, man, I got heat with Dave or what? I said, man, you gave us these 2 guys, Omega and Okada, a 6-star match. I got to have a conversation with him. I'm glad we were able to hook back up.
Yeah, me too.
All right, everybody, give me to go home. Q, it's time to wrap up this podcast and ride off into the sunset. Before I do that, I got to give you guys something to watch. Well, it's what I've been talking about for about an hour with Dave Meltzer. So go to YouTube and check out Kenny Omega versus Okada, Wrestle Kingdom 11, full match HD. Tell you what, a hellacious match, off the charts. These guys knocked it out of the park. I'm going to watch it a second time to pick up some of the nuances that Dave was talking about during the podcast. I watched it one time, paid attention, thought the guys did a hell of a job telling a great story, building this thing to the peaks that they did it, hitting the gas pedal when they needed to, and it was just an awesome professional wrestling match. Way to go, guys. Hey, man, couple of plugs. All the shirts that you see me wear on latest episodes of Broken Skull Challenge are at ProWrestlingTees.com/Steve Austin. If you're looking for a damn IPA to drink, I've got the best one in the United States of America, Broken Skull IPA from El Segundo Brewing Company. Stop into the brewer if you're in L.A., pick it up at Whole Foods and Total Wines if you live in California, or order it from InsideTheCellar.com if you live in a state they ship to. You can find everything at BrokenSkullRanch.com as well, including the Cold Steel Broken Skull knife. And if you want the best price on the baddest knife on the planet, go to Amazon. It's $75 on Amazon, and use my links when you do, because all my links are at PodcastOne.com. Click on the Killer Deals button in the top right corner of the page, then hit the Steve Austin Show button. I got Amazon links for the USA, UK, and Canada. Use my Amazon links whenever you're doing any online shopping, and Amazon will kick back a few bucks to the podcast. Doesn't cost you anything extra. There's no hidden fees or charges. You can buy whatever you plan on buying and help out the podcast in the process. Bookmark it so you can find it easier. And you will also find links to all the great sponsors of this here podcast. I appreciate y'all supporting the sponsors, because they're the ones that let me do this for you free twice a week. So big thanks to DDP Yoga. Go to ddpyoga.com/Austin and get 25% off all DDPY DVDs and related merch. To NatureBox. Go to naturebox.com/Austin and get 50% off your first order. To Helix. Go to helixsleep.com/podcast to get $50 off your first purchase. To CISO. Sign up at CISO.com and use the promo code PodcastOne to get 2 months free. Hey, the 60-second AP News headlines are coming up next. Until then, my name is Steve Austin. I'm back in Los Angeles, and I will catch your ass down the road.
Download new episodes of The Steve Austin Show every Tuesday at PodcastOne.com. That's PodcastOne.com.